Hey guys, welcome to the Sandro Linux community podcast. So today is the 15th of December 2023. It is nearly Christmas, and we've got some tech news today. Intel's launching the Core Ultra line of processors. So these are some new PC chips that they say will bring in the AI PC era. So we'll be discussing that a bit, and we'll also be discussing other tech news stories. So yes, let's get into it. So the first story is Samsung is apparently joining the ranks of Huawei and Apple in supporting emergency texts via satellite. So previously, Apple announced their support for this feature. They now allow you to actually ask for support using a satellite. So if you have a emergency and don't have any cell signal or anything like that, you can use it to try to get some emergency help. So that would be really helpful if you're stranded somewhere, really remote. And apparently Samsung are also bringing this feature to their phones. So apparently this screenshot shows that this is a new option: emergency texts via satellite. So of course, different phone companies bringing out this feature phone by phone. It's a cool feature, I guess. It can only be limited, I guess, geographically. Sometimes, because Huawei, for example, only launched that feature in China, I think. But we're seeing a wider rollout of these types of features, and so yeah, hopefully we see more of this in the future. There's not really much downside to it, and yeah, overall a pretty cool feature. Have you got any thoughts, Piggis, on this emergency feature here?
No.
So let's move right along. So apparently, Google have a name for their new AI assistant that will be exclusive to the Pixel. So inventive, Pixie. So apparently this will only be on the Pixel phones. This will be an exclusive feature for the Pixel users. So all of my audience members who are Pixel users, I guess you'll get this feature. But it's not inventive, is it? The name, like, they could have called it all sorts of things. They've just called it Pixie. I mean, I guess they've named things Gemini. They've named things all different types of things throughout the years. Maybe they're just going for something that's kind of based on the brand. However, it's not particularly a good name, I wouldn't say, because Pixie, I mean, it just sounds like magic or something, and maybe they're trying to say our AI is so good it's like magic. But that, of course, would be BS. So, so I think this is just Google having a bit of a silly naming scheme here. But yeah, it's still a bit annoying. Do you have any thoughts, Piggy?
No, I like the name Pixie.
I just think it kind of
Mm.
it sounds like magic, doesn't it? And that's not really what that's not realistic to what AI actually is. Like, I don't know, pixies for me are associated with magic. I mean, what about you? What do you think of
Yeah,
when you
it
think of pixies?
sounds very much like a dog name or something.
I suppose so. Yeah, I suppose so. But
You go around like calling your phone Pixie.
yeah, I suppose if you're a Pixel user, you can do that, and I suppose if you're not, then you'll just have to refrain from calling your phone a Pixie. Uh, so so this is an interesting
Yeah.
new shift, because previously there was that kind of universal Google Assistant thing where all the phones had Google Assistant. It came to the Pixel first, the Nexus. Oh, was it? I think it might have been the first Pixel first. Um, and then, of course, it rolled out wider on the Android platform. Excuse me. But yeah, so we'll have to wait and see whether this AI assistant is brought to more Android phones or whether it stays a Pixel exclusive. Excuse me. But yes. Uh, what do you think, Piggis? Do you think this will become more of a wider feature, or do you think it will probably just stay on the Pixel line?
I mean, the naming convention really
Yeah,
tries to say that it's very
Pixel
pixel.
based. Yeah,
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 that the idea, at least with the AI, would be to have it just on the pixel.
yeah. That
I
I
think
think
that
that's. Oh, sorry.
could be part of the naming convention there.
Yeah, yeah. Unlike Assistant, for example, where you can kind
Mm-hmm.
of put that on any phone. It's like it's a Google Assistant. A Pixie, that's just very pixel based. They would either have to rename it, or just yeah, they would
Yeah,
basically just have to rename it to put it on another phone. But we might never see them do that. But we'll just have to wait and
maybe.
see. We'll just have to wait and see, won't
Maybe they'll rename it and make it worse for everyone else.
we? Yeah. Um. But yeah, so moving on to the next story here, the last one in the mobile news section. So the Xiaomi 14 Pro may not launch globally. So this is quite bad news for the Xiaomi fans out there. I mean, I know Xiaomi stores popped up all over the place, and yeah, so they might, the international market might not actually be getting this lineup of phones. Apparently, they might just keep it a China exclusive this time. So we've seen this with a number of Chinese smartphone brands where they have only launched it in their home country. That's mainly China, with Huawei launching some of their phones only in China, and a lot of the Chinese domestic brands, such as Mizu, only launching their phones in China, some of their phones. And, maybe this will just be a part of that trend in general. But, of course, we'll just have to wait and see. Do you have any thoughts, Pigus? I mean, it's kind of sad for the international market. All those Xiaomi fans, I know they're out there.
Yeah.
They enjoy the budget appeal of Xiaomi devices, but also, unless you're a flagship user, then you'll enjoy these more premium phones. But I guess if you're a flagship user, then you won't be able to access this new Xiaomi, which might not be good for the smartphone consumer worldwide. Any other thoughts, Pigus?
I'm just, isn't a lot of phones manufactured, like the companies based in China?
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. That of course, a lot of the companies are based in China. But
And it feels like, yeah,
yeah, sorry.
go ahead.
Okay, okay. But yeah, so yeah, of course, a lot of phones are made in China, and a lot of them are made by Chinese companies, and so of course it makes sense to sell them domestically. However, it's another story when you no longer sell to the global market, because that shows that maybe they've worked out that it would be better not to sell to the global market on this one. Maybe it's might work better with the Chinese market, but we'll just have to wait and see, I guess. Anyway, moving on to the gaming news. E3 is dead, and Apple helped kill it. Okay, so I'm not gonna go with that line that Apple Insider are given here. However, E3 is dead. The famous game show, the Electronic Entertainment Expo. Everybody in gaming who follows a lot of gaming stuff when it comes to announcements. If you were following announcements about 10 years ago, E3, yeah, it was used to be a really big event. But then COVID and all that, and they were already E3 was already kind of on the back foot. I mean, yeah, they weren't exactly getting as many game companies and tech companies there as they used to. A lot of tech companies started doing their own thing, like a lot of games companies such as Microsoft and Sony. But that all really started to become more of a thing after COVID, as in during COVID, because yeah, of course, with no physical conference, there was more opportunity for the individual manufacturers to actually host their own events and to announce the products on their own platform. So, of course, it'll be sad to see E3 go. However, it was already waning a bit in, the kind of relevance of it. But now, sadly, yeah, it's fully gone now. Do you have any thoughts, Pigus? I mean, before the show, apparently you didn't know what E3 was. Is that true or not?
Yeah. Mm.
I mean, E3 was a big conference for a while. I mean, a lot of companies launched stuff. Xbox launched stuff. Sony launched stuff. If you wanted to see the latest, if you wanted to wait for some of the big announcements, you could wait for E3. It had a lot of, interesting announcements in general, and it was a really big tech event. So it's interesting to see that go and kind of sad to see that go. But I guess that's just what's happening with the times. But anyway, moving on to the gaming news, not the gaming news, the broadband and cellular news, unless Pigus wants to say anything. Alright, moving right along to the broadband and cellular news. A bit of broadband and a bit of cellular this week. So the ISP TalkTalk is apparently talking about talking. So apparently TalkTalk is, might acquire Shell's Energy, Shell Energy broadband customers. So of course Shell had their broadband division. It was quite it was quite cheap broadband. They had a lot of budget broadband prices and plans. However, now apparently they may actually, sell Shell Energy broadband. So apparently Octopus Energy Group are the current owners. I didn't know Octopus Energy actually owned Shell broadband. It's very interesting, how the names go around, I guess. But yeah, apparently they might be selling those customers to TalkTalk, and I mean, buying customers, really TalkTalk. I guess this has happened before with O2, selling some of their customers to, they sold their customers to Sky, when they shut down. But I think it's a bit of a cheap move from TalkTalk buying customers. I mean, it will get some people switching over. However, there'll also be a lot of annoyed people who'll be like, oh my lord, why am I now signed up to TalkTalk? I didn't sign up for this. And, that will annoy them. However, of course, from a business point of view, TalkTalk could gain a few more customers. And, of course, Shell Energy broadband can get rid of, their customers, I guess, and gain a bit of money. Do you have any thoughts, Pigus?
No.
Yes, not really relevant to you, given that you're in Sweden, but it's still an interesting story for the UK listeners. So the UK mobile operator Zedville, I'm gonna call it Zedville. So it was a Birmingham-based mobile virtual network operator that offered a bit of a twist on pay-as-you-go pricing. It offered EU roaming. It offered all sorts of interesting stuff. So it had quite a nice-looking website. In fact, you can still pull it up. Is it still up? Yeah, it is. So you could get your own SIM. and you could configure it right here. So yeah, you could do a bit of customization. However, sadly, this mobile network is no more. They were using the EE network, for the kind of back end stuff. However, apparently the mounting costs and limited customer adoption now means that it is no longer worthwhile for the mobile operator to continue on, and therefore they're going to cease trading. So yes, it's kind of bad news for the users of this mobile operator. I personally do a lot of reviews on these different mobile networks. I'm trying to go through a lot of them. Maybe one day I will have gone on every single mobile network in the UK. No promises. I might be able to do a review for quite a few of them. Who knows? But of course, there's a few will close down. Through the years, and some startup. That's really the nature of mobile virtual network operators. Given they don't really own any infrastructure. Do you have any thoughts, Pigus? Have you seen any other big mobile network shutdowns recently?
Yeah, no.
Nothing happened in Sweden?
Yeah, no.
Okay. So, continuing on to the next story. So, apparently the UK broadband ISP, yes, if you're an international listener, I'm sorry about all this UK broadband stuff, but the UK ISP Vodafone has confirmed that the IPv6 rollout on their broadband is beginning. So they will now be doing a limited trial of IPv6 internet addresses, and they'll be doing this. They'll be doing this, and if you're a part of the test, you'll be a part of the test, and if you're not, you won't be. And maybe one day they'll roll it out more widely, but we'll just have to wait and see. One day one day all broadband providers will roll out IPv6, but it's just a matter of time, I guess. Do you have any thoughts, Pigus?
It feels like most countries are very slow to adopt IPv6.
Yeah, I wish there was a bit more of a kind of drive to, adopt this new thing. Maybe if the government said more, like, you kind of have to, introduce IPv6. Maybe that might be a good idea, a small bit of government intervention there. Because right now there's just no rollout really taking place. And, it's very slow. And it's much better to adopt these newer standards for internet addresses, because right now, there's isn't it only 32-bit, the IPv6 addresses, like, that they have less,
think.
yeah, whereas, I think, IPv6 has more bits, which means, there can be more assigned values, which means, more devices can be on the internet. So, we haven't, of course, hit the limit of what IPv4 can handle. I don't know when that would even happen, but, it's good to move over to IPv6 a bit. And, right now, we're just not seeing the take-up that's really, the take-up from ISPs that you might expect.
Like on the server sides, it's super easy to get like a whole lot of IPv6 addresses. But it's no point if like
nobody
the
has it.
consumer can connect.
Yeah, it's absolutely pointless. Yeah, but yeah, apparently in the next UK broadband story, this is the last one here. OpenReach have announced their prices are going up. So of course, every single year in April, the prices go up in the UK, and it's an amazing thing called inflation. If you haven't heard of it before, so apparently they're gonna be increasing prices quite a bit for UK ISPs. So if your ISP buys If your ISP buys bandwidth, if they buy if they buy stuff from OpenReach, if they're using their network, then you'll be affected by these increases. But yeah, apparently they're going to be increasing their rates here, so you can see the details here. But yeah, this won't really affect the end consumer. Well, it will in the long run, but this will affect the individual operators who use OpenReach. So, for example, Sky use OpenReach, Vodafone use OpenReach in certain areas. So do Now. All these different operators. So do Shell. The one that we were just talking about. And yeah, a lot of the UK broadband ISPs rely on OpenReach. So when OpenReach increases their prices, everybody is pretty much affected. Given that OpenReach, originally run by BT, it's still quite big. And of course, BT's network was the first one. It used to be a state monopoly. So, of course, they have a lot more broadband rollout than, have a lot more broadband coverage than some of the other networks. So, yeah, overall, this is bad for the consumer. Do you have any thoughts, Piggis?
Yeah.
Clearly, it's the most prescient issue for you, the UK inflation. Okay. But yeah, so let's continue on. AT&T. So we're now going into the miscellaneous news. AT&T is apparently, they're apparently Rivian's latest EV customer. So basically, AT&T are buying these new Rivian-made electric vehicles, and they will be rolling them out in 2024. So you might see some of these if you're in the US. So, watch out for the Rivian name on AT&T vehicles, and also watch out for the name of Amazon, on Amazon vans if you see Rivian. Because those are the two companies they have signed, they've made deals with to sell their vehicles to them. So you might see some of these rolling up on some streets in the US. Of course, because I'm not in the US, I can't really comment on the rollout. But, I'm sure some companies will be adopting this new vehicle platform, I guess. What do you think, Piggy?
Cool.
So moving right along to the next story, BYD. So quite a big brand, I think, coming out of China. Yes, they are. They apparently are trying to take on Tesla in the North American market with the launch of the 2024 Seal EV in Mexico. So they've launched it in Mexico. I'm not really sure. Is that North America? That's more Central America. I suppose it is. I suppose you could class it as North America. But, it's their first step in trying to introduce these cars into the North American market and try and bring their vehicles, which are quite popular in China and other markets, to the US and just to North America in general. They're going to have quite a hard time trying to break through in the American market, I guess, especially with US skepticism when it comes to China, being scared that China is going to take their manufacturing and such. So, BYD might have a few problems in that respect. However, they do have some interesting looking vehicles. Excuse me. So, we'll just have to wait and see what happens with them. Do you have any thoughts, Piggis? Have you seen any BYD vehicles? Are they a thing in Sweden yet?
Yeah, I haven't seen it before.
I haven't seen any
It
in
was
the
like
UK.
new to me.
I haven't seen any in the UK. I've only heard about them. So, right now, they aren't really popular in Europe, I don't think. But, they have some popularity in China. And, of course, they're trying to break through in Western markets. Now, moving on to the next story. So, WhatsApp users can now pin important messages in conversations. So you can now pin multiple messages in chats on WhatsApp, but this is currently only limited to individual and group chats. So this is a cool feature if you enjoy pinned messages and you kind of like that feature. It's already a thing on, Discord, on all sorts of different platforms. However, it will now be a thing on WhatsApp, so rejoice. Do you have any thoughts, Piggis? This isn't a thing on Signal yet, is it?
I don't know.
I don't
But
think it
why
is.
does it seem like WhatsApp are always so late with implementing features that's everywhere else?
I mean, they are features that, you might expect. However, with private messaging, I suppose you could argue that you don't really need all these fancy features, but, I guess they're just quite late to doing it, but, they want to do it like one at a time to show that they're doing something, kind of
I guess, yeah.
slowly, implementing more features saying, look at this is so new. A bit of an Apple style of, nobody did this before us, except everybody.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
so yes, I suppose that's their strategy here, but it's kind of obvious. It's kind of like every week there's a new WhatsApp feature almost. Maybe it's just because they didn't implement some of the basic ones to start with.
I don't think you can pin something on
On
Signal.
Signal, yeah, I don't think you can.
Yeah, Signal. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, moving right along. Also, can I remind
Mm.
viewers that you can use the chat to discuss today's stories. So you can talk in the chat, say hi, whatever you want to do, and you can also talk in the Discord. So yeah. So Google will turn off cookies for 30 million people on January the 4th. So they're rolling out their privacy sandbox project to their browsers. And apparently they will be also rolling out, this turn off of third party cookies. Apparently for 1% of users. So, if you are in that 1%, if you're in the 1% of Chrome users, I suppose, then you'll get this feature, and if you start seeing your Chrome, you're no longer getting third-party cookies. That's the reason why. So I'm not a big fan of this project personally. I think it's a bit creepy. Google trying to roll out their privacy sandbox, which actually is just a way of them trying to, more monopolize the ad market, I'm guessing. I'm not really sure on the specifics when it comes to the way that the privacy sandbox works, but it doesn't look good. From my perspective, people have been calling it out and saying that Google's actions, aren't exactly, the best. It's not exactly all just for the privacy of users. You are dealing with a public company here. They do want to make money, and one of the primary ways Google makes money is through advertisements. So they will want to continue with that. Now, what do you think, Pigus?
Mm. Isn't this part of this thing they've been talking about for a while now in this new tracking system?
Yeah, they've been talking about this for a long time at this point. So, you can turn this on. It's a privacy sandbox thing. And basically, it will basically, I've previously laid out how this would work, but yeah, overall, yeah, it's a bit sinister, to be honest. Um, And yeah, overall it might hurt third-party advertisers a bit more than Google. And if Google can get an advantage over those advertisers, then that could be quite bad for competition.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, so moving right along, to the next story. One that I recently noticed myself. Microsoft has replaced files on Teams with OneDrive. So apparently, this is a small little tweak that Microsoft has made in the Teams app. So now it is out with the Files app and in with the OneDrive app. So you will now be able to access OneDrive within Teams. And apparently this will offer more AI-powered recommendations, a lot more AI features, and some other features which weren't previously available on the Files app. It's mainly just a rebranding, I think. It's mainly what it was previously. It's just now it's more explicitly OneDrive. Do you have any thoughts, Pigus?
I know.
Yeah, so let's continue right along. So, Jagat, I'm gonna say Jagat, a location-based social network that focuses on real-life connections, has officially surpassed 10 million users. So apparently this startup is from Singapore and Indonesia. And apparently this was started when the pair met in December 2021. And apparently one of the developers was working on the GameFi project, which focused on Web3, social, and gaming. So that was the popular trends of the time. But now apparently they've got Jagat. Okay. So this is a new social media platform that focuses on physical connections, I suppose. Real life connections where you are in the world. It seems a bit privacy invasive to me. I mean, having your location broadcast on some app, it's not great, I don't think, from a privacy standpoint. And I'm not really sure you can trust a company with this kind of data. Trying to especially publicly share this on an app. But maybe other people have thoughts on this. I'm not sure. But I'll be interested to hear what your thoughts are, Pigus.
I mean, apart from the privacy stuff, it looks pretty interesting with the not having like this scroll feature like every other social media.
Yeah. I think it is pretty cool not having to scroll. Maybe that's a nice mechanic. But overall, I don't know.
I don't know. Would this be less addictive?
Maybe it's addictive in a different way, Maybe it's addictive in the kind of I'm constantly on it because I'm living life. I mean, it's better to live life than not live life. Be in the real world than not be in the real world. But on the other hand, it is still a bit not great. I mean, maybe people might go to really extreme places just to say, "Hey, I'm here on the app" or whatever.
True, yeah.
They might go to like Area 51 to say, "Hey, I'm at Area 51." They might go to North Korea and go like, "Hi, I'm oh dear, I'm not allowed to use that." Okay, but yeah, you get my point. You get my point.
Yeah.
It's not really great when it comes to maybe people like these days to talk a lot about experiences. kind of post about their, latest experience that they've done. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's good, to have more of an experience-based thing. However, on the other hand, is this really good? Is it really good connecting your real life so much to your online life? Is, your level of privacy really gonna be that good
Yeah.
if you're, constantly sharing, your coffee, as you see on here, every single moment of your life? I know that people are already doing it, but personally, I
Yeah.
think it's not great for your privacy. Quite obviously.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Because it's not only the company who knows it; it's everyone who uses the app now.
Yeah, it doesn't really take much to realize that, this might not be great for your privacy. If everybody can suddenly see where you are, where you're constantly at, whatever you're doing, it's clearly not good for privacy, obviously. You're pretty much just inviting people to watch it. It's slightly strange from that point of view.
Yeah.
But yeah, I suppose that's that. And I suppose, if you want to use this app, it looks like it's a kind of interesting project. And, you can check it out if you want to. I know that 10 million people already have. So you'll maybe be joining that 10 million. Now, Google is apparently moving right along. A bit of a segue here to the next story. Google will update maps to prevent authorities from accessing location history data. So this means that I guess maybe the law enforcement will have to jump for a few more hoops before getting your data. I suppose they'll have to ask for a warrant first. So yeah, this really isn't going to. Oh, okay. So if they're storing it locally on the device, I suppose they could force Google to try and get the data off the device and into the cloud. However, of course, if the phone isn't online or the device isn't online, then the user does not necessarily have to do that. But there are ways to get around this, I suppose. But it is good that they are bringing location data onto local devices.
Mm-hmm.
It's good for privacy, I guess. But
Indeed.
yes, so yeah, that's that. Now the next story, Threads launches for nearly 500 million users more in Europe. This is so clickbait, to be honest. Yeah, 500 million people live in Europe. Yeah, well done. Well done. Thank you for
Wow.
reminding me about that figure. So apparently, if you live in Europe, you can now use Threads, and apparently, according to The Verge, that means that 500 million potential users, because of course everybody and their dog will be of
Mm-hmm.
course will be instantly joining Threads, because that's of course just what you have to do when Meta launches a project. You just got to instantly join and give all your personal data to the Meta machine, and just do it. But of course, that's not the case. There will be privacy concerns when it comes to Threads, and all the 448 million residents of the European Union will not all come at once to sign up to Threads. And if they did all come at once, I'm pretty sure Threads would have some server issues. So, let's hope for both Meta and for, everybody in Europe that, people don't do this. And let's hope that the title stays kind of clickbait.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you have any thoughts, Pegas?
Who know really is if there is anything to say.
Yes. Okay, so continuing right along to the next story, the last one today. You can now pay for Windows 10 support. So, I suppose, when 2025 rolls around, when Windows 10 is no more, I suppose you could pay for end of life support. Unlike with Windows 7 and unlike with previous releases of Windows, this will be available for consumers. But overall, you really shouldn't do this. Because, why the hell? Well, why do you want to use the old version of Windows? Unless you're an enterprise customer, I get it then. Maybe old software that you need to still use. I kind of get it then. But for individual users, I don't really see the appeal of these paid plans. What do you think, Piers?
I think that this would be sort of a money grabber for them. Because,
Yeah.
like, as you say, a lot of enterprise companies take a lot of years before they finally update, if they ever will.
Yeah, but it's like if you really want to just stay off Windows 11, you hate Windows 11,
Mm,
why don't you just use Linux, use BSD, whatever, probably Linux.
yeah,
But it's kind of like, why don't you switch to a different operating system if you really don't want to upgrade? Because this will cost you a lot of money for just getting a few updates, I
yeah.
suppose. Is this
Do they
really
state
worth
the
it?
price for it?
No, not yet. Apparently
No.
they haven't. And when 2025 rolls around, I guess you can find out. And maybe it might be high, it might be low. But when it comes to 2028, you're stuffed either way. So even if you paid, those yearly subscriptions, you're still with a security patchless operating system in 2028, when they will
Ju-
stop updates for the extended support. So no point, guys. No point. I mean, it's like giving somebody life support and then they just die anyway. It's like I don't know. It's like somebody on life support who can't kind of who can't literally do anything or aren't even conscious. It's kind of like I don't know. You know.
mm.
That was a weird analogy I went to. I'll discard that for a second. I'm gonna discard that one. Anyway, do you have any other stories that you want to cover, Piggy?
Yeah, no.
Okay, so I think that is it, guys. Thank you for watching. Sorry for the poor analogy. Oops. But yeah, so thank you guys for watching once again. Check out the Discord, sandrolinux.com/Discord. And of course, you can check out my Odysee. You can check out Library. The Foundation are doing some interesting stuff if you want to check that out. We're trying to revive the project a bit. So you can check that out if you go over to the Foundation stuff. And overall, thank you for watching, guys. My website is sandrolinux.com. And yeah. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, and share. And peace out. Do you want to say goodbye, Peter?
Bah.
Yeah.
Slavidal.